Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. Welcome back to our Uddhava-gita course. Now we are in a very sweet section of the Uddhava-gita here, where Krishna is highlighting the power of bhakti for people that are progressing, not for the a lot of times we hear about the perfect yogi and the perfect devotee. So it's nice that in this section, what we're hearing about is, the person like you and me, the person who's progressing, the person who is working on himself or herself. So now, of course, if you want to watch all the previous classes, there are already 71 classes in this Uddhava-gita course. If you want to watch all the previous ones, make sure you become a member of this channel, and the instructions are here in the description of the video. And also check out Uddhava-gita.com if you want to see the whole course there presented in an organized fashion. Okay, so we are in the 11th canto, 14th chapter, verse 18. My dear Uddhava, if my devotee has not fully conquered his senses, he may be harassed by material desires. But because of his unflinching devotion for me, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. So this is very nice, right? Like, raise your hand if you have not fully conquered your senses, raise your hand. So that's okay. So now this is an important topic. So he says that if you don't conquer, if you're not like a perfect yogi in full control of your senses, then you may be harassed. I like that transition, being harassed by material desires. And you know what that's like, right? Being harassed by material desires is when you lose your focus, you can't be yourself, you can't prioritize Dharma, you can't prioritize Krishna, because your desires are pushing you in a way which will be trouble, which won't be good for you, but you're being harassed by your desires. So that happens. But fear not, Krishna says, because of his unflinching devotion unto me. So it's like, he specifically mentions here, not just any kind of devotion. So there is a clause here you do have to be mindful of. Not just any kind of devotion, but an effective and strong devotion. So it's bhakti, but not just a crummy bhakti. You've got to be a little better. So if you've got like nice, good, strong, and effective bhakti, then you won't be defeated by this sense gratification. This won't defeat you. What it means defeat? Defeat means you're ruined. You've lost. You're out. You've destroyed your life. You made a mess of your life. You lost your spiritual life. So so we won't be defeated. You might suffer a bit, have some causes, but then you're back on track. And that's what really yoga is all about. And when we practice meditation, you notice how our mind will go somewhere else, and then you bring it back to the focus of meditation, and then you'll slip again, and then you bring it back again. And that's how meditation works. That's what a meditator deals with. Your mind goes off and you bring it back, and your mind goes off and you bring it back, and then you stay there, and then it goes off. So that's what it is. And with life, it's the same thing. You're on your path, you're on your Krishna bhakti path, you're on your path of Dharma and bhakti, and your mind will slip, you'll lose the connection, and you just bring it back. You don't like sit there, you don't lament forever, you just get up and you keep going. So that was very nice. Purport. Abhibhuyate indicates falling down into the material world and being defeated by Maya. But even though one's senses are not fully conquered, one who has unflinching devotion for Lord Krishna does not run the risk of being separated from him. The words pragau bhaya bhaktya indicate a person who has great devotion for Lord Krishna, and not one who desires to commit sinful activities and chant Hare Krishna to avoid the reaction. So of course, there's no cheating with God. You can't cheat your way through reality, and especially not with God. God's a little more clever than you, so you can't cheat God. So of course, you can't commit sins on purpose, let your crazy side take over, and then say, no, I'll just do some prayers here, get atonement for my sins, bathe in the Ganga. So that won't work. You have to, be serious about your practice. Because of previous bad habits and immaturity, even a sincere devotee may be harassed by lingering attraction to the bodily concept of life. But his unflinching devotion for Lord Krishna will act. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur gives the following two examples. A great warrior may be struck by the weapon of his enemy, but because of his courage and strength, he is not killed or defeated. He accepts the blow and goes on to victory. Similarly, one may contract a serious disease, but if he takes the proper medicine, he is quickly cured. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives us these two examples of taking a blow and then getting up. And that's how you should do with your spiritual life. Never let that self-criticism take over as an excuse. It's kind of an excuse to give up your spiritual life. I've seen people do that over and over again. It's like an excuse, like you didn't want to deal with, I'm too lowly, I'm too fallen. No, just get up and keep going. Krishna will take care of everything. Krishna says in the end of Bhagavad-gita, don't worry, don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. It's a very beautiful message. Don't worry, just fear not. So Krishna will take care of things. If those who follow the impersonal system of speculation and austerity deviate even slightly from their path, they fall down. A devotee, however, even though immature, never falls from the path of devotional service. Even if he displays occasional weakness, he is still considered a devotee if his devotion to Lord Krishna is very strong. As the Lord states in Bhagavad-gita 9:30, Krishna makes this point in 9:30 as well, in a very dramatic way. He says, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadureva samantavya samyak vyavasito isa. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. Again, not to be misinterpreted as a license for committing, sins or being a nonsense person. No, not a license. It's just like if you're serious about progressing and if you do fall, you're okay. But if you're just not serious about progressing, you just want to be a rascal, no, you can't use spirituality to get you off the hook. You won't. Okay. Verse 19. It's taking a little while to load here. Excuse me. Okay, so here we go. Verse 19. My dear Uddhava. Now this is really great. My dear Uddhava, just as a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly, devotion unto me completely burns to ashes. Sins committed by my devotees. Isn't that great? Look at that. Devotion unto me completely burns to ashes. Sins committed by my devotees. Now, you may ask, why? What is this? I mean, it does, what's going on here? Like, it seems like cheating. This doesn't seem, favoritism, no. What's going on is actually quite simple. If you're serious about Krishna, you're focused on it, you're experiencing that contact with Krishna, you're developing a relationship, that's bhakti. What that means is your mind is now, we were talking about this in the previous classes, we're talking about happiness. Remember, we were talking about the happiness you experience in bhakti just so surpasses it. It's just a completely different category of happiness than you have in the material world. And they're so different that it's just everything in the material world just becomes, you know, just not at all important. It's like I gave the example, like if you've become, you know, a vegetarian, then like nobody, like somebody offering like, oh, this meat is so tasty and oh, you should see that. It's like, I'm completely not doing that anymore. It's disgusting to me. It's like, it doesn't make sense that you're trying to, you know, or if you've given up alcohol, it's like, oh no, but this wine has, it's like, I don't care. It's like, I'm not drinking alcohol. So no, but this scotch, you should, it's like, that's not my thing anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. So there's nothing tempting about it because it's, you know, that's not my thing anymore. And the same thing with devotion. So you're focused now. So we were talking about pleasure in the other verses, and now Krishna's talking about, well, what if you're not totally focused on this transcendental pleasure and you're still trying to, you know, get some, you know, not appropriate, not dharmic pleasure in matter? You know, that won't destroy you because you're getting this other thing already. So maybe you haven't completely accessed the transcendental joy, but you're working on it so well, it's going to work. It's going to work. It's guaranteed. So all these things in the material world, you don't have to go through a whole punishment through them. You don't have to keep that heavy karma. Sin is like a heavy karma. You don't have to carry that because you won't need that lesson. Do you understand? That lesson won't be necessary for you because you've got something more powerful than the law of karma to teach you. Because now you're working on love, now you're working on spiritual, now you're actually experiencing something else. So that will be much more effective and much faster in getting you over anything related to matter than the law of karma can do for you. Because the law of karma is a system for those who haven't signed up for yoga. The law of karma is a system for people who don't want to work on themselves. It's the system you can't get out of. You can't sign, you know, you can't, no, I don't want to participate. You don't have a choice. You have to be in the law of karma. Everybody does, even Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, everybody does. So the law of karma is that system you can't opt out of. But if you really want to advance, you do yoga. You do Uddhava-gita, you do Bhagavad-gita, and then your progress is very fast progress. In one lifetime progress. I mean, Krishna over and over again says, everyone can achieve perfection in this lifetime. Doesn't matter who you are. No, but I'm so fallen. You could be the most fallen person, Krishna says. You could be the most horrible person. And you can achieve perfection in this life. So what to speak of, you know, I'm sure you're a very nice person like yourself. Very easy. So, and the law of karma just, you know, we've been in it, just dragging you and over like millions of lifetimes. You just dragged across the concrete, you know, of the law of karma, you know, and it doesn't, you know, it does its thing, but you know, it doesn't really, it won't purify you in this lifetime or anything. So you don't need that system because now you're in a different system. And now, especially because not only are you doing yoga, but you're doing yoga with Krishna Bhakti. So now you've gone to like the best. You went to the most powerful method. So this powerful method of bhakti will take your mind to experiences which will make you completely uninterested in matter. So you won't need the karmic experience to find out that that was a bad idea. You'll already not want it anymore. Let me know if that was clear. Purport. One should carefully note that the Lord refers to devotion that is like a blazing fire. So not, you know, again, this isn't like some lukewarm, not very serious, oh yeah, my grandmother worships Krishna, so yeah, Krishna, Jai Haribol. No, it's not, it's like serious. It's like you're a proper yogi, you're doing the Uddhava-gita course, you're trying to learn and practice, you know, you're serious. So, blazing fire. To commit sinful activity on the strength of chanting the holy name is the greatest offense. And the devotion of one who commits this offense cannot be compared to a blazing fire of love for Krishna. As stated in the previous verse, a sincere loving devotee, because of immaturity or previous bad habits, may be disturbed by his senses, even though he has accepted Lord Krishna as the only goal in his life. But if even by chance the devotee accidentally falls down without premeditation or indifference, the Lord immediately burns to ashes his sinful reactions, just as the blazing fire immediately consumes an insignificant piece of wood. Lord Krishna is glorious, and one who takes exclusive shelter of the Lord receives the unique benefits of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very nice. Powerful stuff. Okay, verse 20. My dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under their control. I cannot be thus controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation. So this is a classic statement you'll see over and over again in bhakti. It's very interesting. Krishna says, not any kind of devotional service again. This has to be very good bhakti. So like a, good quality bhakti, this kind of blazing fire bhakti he's talking about. So like serious bhakti here in the translation, unalloyed, like, without mixture of anything else, just like intense bhakti. So with proper bhakti, you can bring, Krishna says, my devotees, I'm brought under their control. It's a thing that keeps coming up a lot. So it's like, I don't even know why you'd want to control Krishna, but it's like a loving thing. You have to understand it in a sense of a loving thing. Like, when you're somebody, you love somebody very much. The classic image of that love-struck, guy, and he's completely controlled by the woman. Something like that, completely under the control. Or like, your kids. You'll do anything for your kids. They control. And when they're small, when they start getting old, you start like, no, I'm kidding. But when your kids are young, it's like, oh, Daddy, we want to do this thing. You're like, oh, okay, okay, yes. Oh, can we get that? Yes, okay. You're under their control. It's a loving thing. Even though you have more power, there's nothing. But you give in because of love. So it's like that. It's this beautiful image, because you see God, the all-powerful, the Supreme Lord, and everything is moving, out of fear of Him. There's this, in the Bhagavad Purana, in the 3rd canto, Kapila is giving instruction. He says, out of fear of me, the sun shines and the water, like all these things happen because out of the fear of me, the super powerful Lord. But now he says, but no, I come under the control of my devotees. So like this infinitely powerful being is now, under control, the love. So it's a beautiful image of like just how sweet God is, and Krishna just wants to, this love. It's all about love. It's a beautiful image. And then, of course, this statement of my devotees bring me under their control is always followed by but. There's always a but all these other guys, they won't control me. So like all these super powerful, like mystic yogis who are trying, who can manipulate everything, who have all the mystic powers, all the vibhutis, they can't control me at all. And like Sankhya, you're super intelligent, you understand, nope, that won't work. And then of course even lesser things like just doing your dharma like a perfectly dharmic person, no, that won't do the trick. Just dharma won't do the trick. And Vedic study, Swadhyaya, nope, that's not gonna. And then tapas and tyag. Tapas, having that power to like determine what you do and never ceding to your desires and never getting off the path. You're very austere. No, that won't control me. And neither will tyag, renunciation. So that super renounced person, living naked in a forest, breathing only, that won't control Krishna. Krishna's not impressed by that stuff either. It's all about love. It's a very sweet, interesting message. Okay, purport. One may make Krishna the goal of mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, etc. Yet such activities do not please the Lord as much as direct loving services, bhakti, which one practices by hearing and chanting about the Lord and executing his mission. Srila Rupa Goswami states, Gana Karmadi Anavritam. A devotee should simply depend on Krishna and should not unnecessarily complicate his loving service with tendencies toward karma and fruitive work, or jnana, mental speculation. So this term, when you see this, if you're studying like the Prabhupada, the Bhaktivedanta books, and this term unalloyed devotional service is a translation of different terms, but here's a nice statement from Rupa Goswami. He's a great sage, a great disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the Middle Ages, and he says, Gana Karma Adi Anavritam. So Jnana, Karma, etc. Jnana, when you see jnana in this context, like don't mix jnana with bhakti in this sense. It's not that like be dumb, don't study. No, it means that jnana means a jnani is a person who hasn't quite figured things out yet. A jnani is still searching. He's like, is there God? Isn't there God? Is God like this or is like that? Or maybe it's just impersonal, personal. Am I God? Am I soul? What's going on? So a jnani is searching. He's thinking, he's trying to figure it out, but he hasn't figured it out yet. So there are doubts. Things aren't clear yet. So that's a jnani. And a karmi, of course, is just a materialist who's out to try to get some pleasure out of material stuff on the surface. So we want our bhakti not to have elements of jnana or karma in this sense. We don't want to be falling, like Krishna said, interested, harassed by our senses. That would be a karmi. And we don't want to be like, oh, I don't know if Krishna, I don't know, no, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm impersonal. You don't want to be in that, oh, I haven't figured it out yet stage. Of course, we have to go through that stage, but you don't want to be stuck in that like, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure what's this, should I do this or should I do that, or maybe it's this, or maybe the Buddha's got it right. You have to figure it out and get it, and then you can get to pure bhakti. So that's what they're talking about here. The residents of Vrindavan simply depend on Lord Krishna. When the great serpent Aghasura appeared in the precincts of Vraja, the cowherd boys, completely confident in their friendship with Lord Krishna, fearlessly marched into the serpent's gigantic mouth. Such pure love for Krishna brings the Lord under the control of the devotee. This is, of course, a famous, wonderful, sweet Leela from Vraj, where, Krishna's still in a young phase, and his little friends, they're all little kids, they're like 5-6-year-olds, they're all young, fun, crazy age, and they figured out that Krishna is like amazing. It's like he does these superheroes. He's like, their best friend is like a superhero, and so they see this giant snake, this humongous, gigantic being. His mouth was, would go all the way up to the sky. And of course, instead of being scared and running for their lives, they're like, we got Krishna here. let's go. And they go straight into the snake, you know, Aghasura. They go straight into its mouth. It doesn't even move. The Aghasura is just sitting there, not moving. It's not even attacking them. So, but they're like, no, we got Krishna. Let's just go. So, and Krishna's like, what? You guys are so crazy. So they just go. And of course, they die, actually. They actually die. And Krishna has to like bring him back to life. Like, you know, they take it. They're kids. But anyways, it's a funny, wonderful. But it just shows like they're so confident. They're so surrendered to Krishna. It's just a wonderful example. Like, yeah, giant snake, no problem. Krishna's got my back, you know, and just like that kind of stuff. It's wonderful, complete surrender, complete dependence. Like they're not depending on anything else. They're not going to do anything with the snake. They're not going to figure it out. They've got nothing at all going for them except Krishna. And they're like, that's fine, let's go for it. We've got everything. So it's a wonderful Leela. Okay, verse 21. Only by practicing unalloyed devotional service, here's that term again, but in Sanskrit here in this verse it says ekaya, you know, just like that bhakti that's focused, eka, one point. Only by practicing this one-pointed or unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me can one obtain me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am naturally dear to my devotees, who take me as the only goal of their loving service. By engaging in such pure devotional service, even the dog eaters can purify themselves from the contamination of their low birth. So this is one of those statements, like you might be like, oh, but this must be like very advanced people. And of course, you have to remember this is coming, it's an ancient tradition, you know, in a culture that was heavily structured. So like the Brahmanas, oh yeah, oh no, you're so low, you can't even take water. I mean, it's hard for us, so like Westerns, but like you couldn't even eat together or take a glass of water. You couldn't take water from a person who was like in a lower stratum, you know, who was, are you Brahmana? Oh no, you can't even, you know, don't even sit next to me. You can't be in the same place, like real, like kind of like an apartheid, like a really heavy system. So like, oh no, we can do things, you can't. So it's a very heavy system that they had, which is a distortion of the natural Varnashra system, but you know, it's just human nature likes to lord it over people like that. So they had this really, so imagine this really heavy system where you're like, no, you can't even chant a mantra. You can't even get to a mantra. In this system, a verse like this is shocking. I mean, it's a wonderful verse even for us, but in the original system, it's a shocking, like it's an intense, shocking statement. You know, to say in a society that's so structured that people like weren't allowed so many things, like you couldn't do this, you can't give me, you can't sit and eat with me because you're so low, you're so fallen, you know, you can't get close to me because I'm so pure. And in this society to say, look, no, everyone, it doesn't matter who you are, bhakti is so powerful, you can attain perfection. It doesn't matter where you are, where you started, it doesn't matter at all, as long as you have devotion. So it's very powerful statement. So Kisha, and then the example given here is one that pops up in the Vedas. It's like when you want to talk about like, oh, that's like the lowest kind of person. Or it's the swapaka and the dog eaters. It's like, man, if you're eating, because I mean, meat eating is bad enough, but if you're eating dogs, then you're like, that's it. You've hit rock bottom, you know. So they use dog eaters as like, okay, man, that is some low stuff, you know. So yeah, dog eaters is like, So it's funny that dog eaters are there. But anyway, even if you have, you know, by chance eaten dogs, I've eaten lots of crazy stuff, but not dogs, fortunately, you know, before I became a devotee. But anyway, so I'm sure, so even like a very fallen person, you know, just the worst Everyone can attain perfection through bhakti. That's how powerful bhakti is. And not only can you attain perfection through bhakti, but it's actually the only way to attain Krishna, which is obvious. The only way to attain Krishna is through bhakti. Of course, remember, never forget, we're talking about the most important, the primary practice, but that does not exclude the secondary and tertiary practices. So it's, again, it's not just bhakti and then you're like a crazy, sinful person. No, no. You have to be dharmic, you have to be in the here and now, you have to practice sattva, you have to have the proper lifestyle. So all the things that I explain in the 3T Path book, you know, and Krishna explains all over the place, that's all valid as well. But that stuff is necessary, but insufficient. So you need that stuff and bhakti to achieve Krishna. That's the point. Don't get confused with a verse, oh, you just read this and forget the rest. No, no. This is the cherry on top of the cake. There is still a whole cake there, but this is just the cherry on top of the cake. That, yes, devotion, achieving Krishna, very wonderful. Now, Krishna says that this bhakti, though, you have to make Krishna as the only goal of their loving service. So none of this, you know, devotion to this and devotion to that and Shiva and Ganesh and, you know, Jesus. No, you have to, you know, in the beginning, you're like, again, if you're a jnani, you're like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But after a while, you have to be, no, this is it. It's Krishna. I don't need to like Shiva. I don't need anything else. It's just Krishna. So you have to focus, you know, your love, because that's what it's about, right? If you want to like get married, you can't be like, oh, but I have all these nice girlfriends and, you know, and then you won't marry any of them. You have to like, you know, no, this one, you know, you can't have a whole bunch of guys you're dating. Oh yeah, they're all nice. I like all of them. I go out with all of them. You know, you have to choose one and focus on that one to actually be able to get that one. That's how it works. It's a simple concept. Purport. Sambhavat indicates jati doshat, or the pollution of low birth. Jati dosha does not refer to mundane social, economic, or professional status, but rather to one's degree of spiritual enlightenment. All around the world, many people are born into rich and powerful families, but they often acquire abominable habits that are part of their so-called family tradition. So, you know, in the purport they're making, like, understand, we're not talking about the caste system. We're talking about the level of spiritual consciousness. That's a low birth in the sense of, you know, having bad habits in a family with bad habits. You know, that's a low birth. However, even unfortunate persons who are taught from birth to engage in sinful activities can at once be purified by the potency of pure devotional service. Such service must have Lord Krishna as the only goal. Man nishta must be rendered with full faith, shraddhaya, and must be unalloyed or without any selfish motivation, ekaya. So 3 nice words here in this verse. Manishta, fixed on me, Krishna says. Manishta, shraddhaya, with faith, with shraddha, right? You're putting your heart into it. And ekaya, one. Very nice, wonderful verses. And I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. And have a rest of your day with lots of love and lots of peace. Hare Krishna.